Biden, he hasn't really, he has not put that much emphasis on diplomacy. I mean, he's declared this chip war on China, which is like almost like when we tried to cut off Japan's oil supply before Pearl Harbor, or whatever however exactly we did it. I mean, this is like, from China's point of view, this is like a major assault. This is not, playing softball. This is a declaration of economic war. So, any thoughts about the world?
There was an interesting column by Walter Russell Mead. I know you're a soulmate on these topics.
Yeah, Walter and I are just,
pointing out that the Biden's emphasis on diplomacy has been pretty much a unanimous failure across the board. He's always relying on, talk instead of war to resolve things, except in Ukraine, and has very, very little to show for it.
You mean in the Middle East?
Middle East, everywhere. Middle East, the Houthis.
Well, in the Middle East, the problem is obviously that he won't use
Sudan.
in the Middle East. The problem is he won't use the leverage he has with Israel to get them to negotiate. They don't want to negotiate. It's not good politics for Netanyahu to negotiate. So if Biden wants it to happen, he's got to pull out the big sticks. He has the big sticks. We control the flow of ammo, but he's afraid to because of the domestic political blowback. Same reason, America always just never does what's in America's interest when it comes to Middle East policy.
Does that go away after the election?
No, it never goes away.
Well,
politicians
right now they need to raise a lot of money from donors where Jewish donors have disproportionate influence.
Yeah,
people, they're trying to also they're going crazy being pro crypto because crypto people have a lot of money. Yeah, but I assume that will go away after the election.
Okay, but as long as, Democrats have, first of all, House elections coming up in 2 years after the election. And if Kamala wins, she'll be running for re-election. So the same people Biden doesn't want to antagonize, Kamala won't want to antagonize. And so, she'll never play hardball with Israel. Also Biden, he hasn't really, he has not put that much emphasis on diplomacy. I mean, he's declared this chip war on China, which is like almost like when we tried to cut off Japan's oil supply before Pearl Harbor, or whatever however exactly we did it. I mean, this is like, from China's point of view, this is like a major assault. This is not, playing softball. This is a declaration of economic war.
He presents himself as Mr. Diplomacy, Mr.
Well, they all do. So does Bibi. Bibi says, I'm willing to talk if anybody lives long enough to talk. Unfortunately, they keep being killed by Israeli bombs. But I'd love to talk to them.
It isn't killing them except in Ukraine, and
American weapons are killing them. American ammo is killing them. In Gaza and in Lebanon, that's us. That's your tax dollars. And also in Ukraine. Also in Ukraine, but Ukraine's another case where he's not used the leverage to push Ukraine toward the negotiating table back when some of us first recommended it, exactly when it should have been done 2 years ago, or actually about 22 months ago would have been optimal after these Ukrainian victories. And it's the same thing as with Israel. It's just that in the case of Ukraine, he actually has a little more political leeway to use the sticks he could use, the carrots and sticks, but he's not using.
Isn't the Ukraine invasion of Russia slightly leveling the scales, evening the scales, restoring their bargaining position?
Oh God, no! It's a disaster. I mean, they were hoping Russia would divert Russian troops from the Donbass. That didn't happen. Ukraine had to divert important troops, including elite troops, from the Donbass to not just take, but hold that territory. Russia has not diverted significant numbers, and as a result, Russia's progress on the ground is only accelerating. And no, Ukraine's in trouble.
Is it hard
Um,
for Ukraine to hold that territory? Is there like a rebel movement trying to push them out?
it's not a rebel movement. I mean, the Russian troops are hitting them with drones and artillery and everything, and and I reports have it that Ukraine is suffering very serious losses of men and materiel in Kursk, and the Russians are not having to expend like a lot of elite troops or anything.
And do we want to give them these missiles that they're asking for?
Well, what they're asking for is permission to use them to strike deep
Okay.
inside Russia.
And these are the
Um,
attack M's or whatever you call them.
yeah. Also, the British, I think, Storm Shadow or whatever. Oh, I would not personally give them the permission. I don't think it would lead immediately to like a nuclear attack. Although just this week, Putin did apparently amend the nuclear doctrine to make uh, to make the criteria for Russia using nukes somewhat more liberal. That's not encouraging, but could be entirely a bluff. But it's not the kind of thing you should be too casual about, I think.
It does
And
seem weird.
I mean, just let me say, I mean, the way he would counter that is with other forms of escalation. I think Putin. He wouldn't. It's not like he'd go nuclear, but he would do things.
It does seem odd for the Democrats to accuse Republicans of wanting to start World War III when they're doing that, though.
Uh, yeah. I mean, Biden's in no position to say that anybody else is courting the danger of expanding war.
Yeah.
But that said, I mean, I think Trump is probably on balance more dangerous when it comes to foreign policy, judging by his last stint.
On the general issue of do we need more defense strength or not, I must admit that I am just intuitively, susceptible to the argument that our military was actually tested in a war would not perform very well. Uh, Akin to General Austin's performance in Syria.
That's what some people think. I mean, it's true that you kind of have to be in a war every once in a while to stay good at it. Now, the U.S. has
Yeah,
been in military conflicts.
yeah. So that there's that.
But
But
there are people who say that, our military has like a bigger drug problem than people realize with opiates and whatever else. I don't know. I don't
and
know.
a future war isn't necessarily going to be like the Iraq War. If we have to fight a war against Saddam Hussein again, we would probably do pretty well. But I mean,
Yeah, because I
war
don't
with
think,
China is going to be like aircraft carriers blowing each other out of the water and
well, if that, I
drones,
mean,
everything
uh,
like that.
yeah, drones, yeah, it's, the war is changing fast.